Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed but promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron, and welcome back to the game day preview for this weekend's action taking place in the Allianz National Football League. I don't know why I said that so slow, but a whole host of massive games taking place this weekend. It's crunch time really now in the Allianz National Football League. Things are beginning to really heat up. We're going to be seeing who's going to be very much in the battle for promotion, who's going to be getting promoted from the various different divisions, who's going to be taking a step closer towards getting into the Allianz National Football League final, who's going to be in the relegation battle, who's going to consolidate and survive. There's really a lot of permutations taking place, and things are really starting to open up in the Allianz National Football League this weekend. And of course, first of all, if you could smash that like button, let me know you're enjoying this type of content on the channel. And stay tuned, of course, for more reactions, podcasts, all the rest. And if you're new to the channel, if you could subscribe, that'd be absolutely brilliant. And if you're listening on audio podcasts, if you could give the podcast a rating, that would be absolutely brilliant. Well, here we go then. We'll start off with the Division 1 Allianz National Football League action. And first of all, let's get the table up on the screen if we can. So if we can see there, this is a league table provided by GAA League Tables on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure to go over and give them a follow if you can. But you can see the league table there. So Kerry and Armagh currently with 5 points. Mayo with 5 points as well. Donegal and Tyrone both locked on 3 points. Monaghan and Kildare Monaghan just about above the relegation zone there with 2 points, and Kildare with a point. And good old Dublin sitting bottom with 3 defeats. And what's actually interesting about all this weekend's action in the National Football League is a lot of teams who are on similar points in similar positions in the table actually play each other. For example, Armagh and Mayo there, you can see, can I highlight that there? No, I don't think I can, but the two, you can see there, Armagh and Mayo, 2nd and 3rd, both playing each other this weekend. Donegal and Tyrone, 4th and 5th, both playing each other. Kildare and Dublin, 7th and 8th, both playing each other this weekend. So things are really going to open up after this weekend's results. We're going to have a much clearer picture as to who's going for the league, who is looking to survive in the league, and maybe who will be finishing mid-table in terms of who wins between Donegal and Tyrone. So very interesting stuff, no doubt about it. And we will start with Mayo and Armagh. Do you know what? It's absolutely baffling in many ways that this game... Wow. That's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? Let me mute that. Armagh and Mayo this weekend. Do you know what's baffling? This game isn't even on TV. I mean, what? Absolutely baffling. I think this game might be deferred maybe on TG Cahill or it might be on GAA Go, but it's not being shown live on TV, which is absolutely baffling, because for me this is the game of the weekend. I mean, I know Kildare and Dublin, there's a lot of hype around that because it's in Newbridge and because maybe is it going to be Kildare's first competitive win over Dublin since 2000. But look, we'll get onto that in a moment. Donegal, Tyrone, obviously big rivals going up against each other there. But I mean, this game not being shown on TG Cahill RTE is maybe like the feature game of the week is absolutely baffling in my opinion, because it's two of the best teams in the country at the minute playing up against each other, as you would have seen on the league table, 2nd up against 3rd, both sides unbeaten, both sides with 5 points on the board so far, 2 wins and a draw each. And I think this is going to be a cracking game of football. I really do. It's been played in Dr. Hyde Park, obviously because Mayo's McHale Park is under construction at the minute. I just think this is going to be a very entertaining game. Both sides have probably played the best football in the country so far this year. Both sides obviously have recorded big wins over Dublin at Croke Park as well. And I think it'll be very intriguing to see how the game pans out. Now, we did see with Armagh last week up against Monaghan, where they probably weren't at their absolute best, compared to their opening 2 games. I do think we will probably see with Armagh I do think they're going to rotate a little bit more, and I don't think there's going to be, I think from now until the end of the league, I think Armagh is going to be putting a lot of emphasis really on the championship that's coming up, because they play Donegal first off out, and Ulster is very, very competitive. Mayo do play Galway first time out in the Connacht Championship, so I do think their attention will start to turn to that as well. But with both of these two teams, I think getting to a league final will be a bonus. I think if Armagh go on to win the league, look, it'll be absolutely memorable. I think it'll be their first league they've won since 2005, from what I remember, and it'll be absolutely huge for the county. But I think for both of these two, the big aim really is obviously in the championship. For Armagh, they want to close that gap in Ulster, not having won an Ulster title in God knows how many years. 2008, I think, was the last time they won it. And Mayo are obviously looking at ending that long discussed and talked about All-Ireland drought. So that is the main aim for both of these two counties. But look, whoever wins this game, I think will have one eye on the league. They'll be in the top two in the Allianz National Football League if they come out with a victory. And look, I think it's going to be an intriguing game. I think we've seen both sides at times like to play direct football. Armagh certainly can mix it up from time to time. When they go direct, you see them causing all sorts of problems when they're getting that direct ball into Rian O'Neill, when you're getting Jamar Hall on the ball, Rory Grugan, a fantastic link man really to link all the play together. And, you still have Oisin O'Neill, who obviously came back against Monaghan. You still have him to come back as a regular starter. Conor Turbot as well. Even when Rian O'Neill went off with an injury during the Monaghan game, he did come back on late on. But you've seen Conor Turbot come on, and he was able to sort of fill that void of that direct ball. So Armagh have a lot of very, very good options in their team. They don't just have Rian O'Neill as the vocal point in their attack. They do also have very well-rounded players like Conor Turbot, Ross McQuillan, Jamar Hall, Jason Duffy as well. So very, very good team all across the board is Armagh. And look, for Mayo, they won't have the distraction of Sigerson Cup anymore. So you'll see maybe players like Fionn McDonough maybe coming back into the team now as well. Still have Oisin Mullen obviously started against the Dubs, and you would expect him to continue starting in the team. It will be interesting to see, is Cillian O'Connor going to come back at some point for Mayo? I think that's the big question really, isn't it, with Tommy Conroy's injury and with him most likely to be out for the entirety of the league and championship this year. It does sort of leave a space open there for maybe Cillian O'Connor to come back in if he is fit. So it'll be an interesting game. I think it'll be very, very entertaining. I think I'm going to go with a draw, in all honesty. I think, we've seen a lot of draws really in the National Football League so far this year. I feel like this might be a draw, but with Mayo maybe being at home, do you know what, actually, I'm going to go with a Mayo victory. I think maybe this will be a bit of a reality check for Armagh, who will come up. This will be their toughest game so far in 2022. They've come up against Dublin, who are clearly on the decline. We'll get onto them in a moment. Tyrone, obviously not at their absolute best in that Armagh game. You have to give credit to Armagh, by far and away the better side in both of those two games. And the fact they won both games very convincingly shows you just how much they have made progress. But I do think this will be a step up, and I think Mayo will treat Armagh serious. They'll go at Armagh. They'll cause them problems. I think Ryan O'Donoghue as well will turn up in this game, and Jermaine O'Connor, Matthew Ruan, arguably the best midfield pairing in Gaelic football at the minute. Yeah, I know Jermaine O'Connor didn't play in midfield against Dublin necessarily, but he did do a lot of work around midfield, and he was absolutely outstanding. And maybe that is the best midfield pairing in Gaelic football at the minute. So yeah, I think Mayo are going to have too much for Armagh. They're too much of a seasoned team, and I think this is going to be a bit of a reality check for the men from the Yorkshire County. So I think Mayo will have enough here and win the game by 2 points. Kildare and Dublin is up next. Well, here we go then. Absolutely massive game for both counties, and in particular for Kildare. Big for Dublin, but I think for Kildare this is a massive game, because they haven't beaten Dublin in a competitive game since the year 2000. And actually, a bit of a trivia question for anyone who is watching in the comments down below. Who scored the goals that day for Kildare in 2000? And if you can name any of the players who were playing on the pitch that day for either side, some bonus points involved. So we'll get on. We'll mention the goal scorers in just a moment. But yeah, 22 years since Kildare last beat Dublin. Dublin have actually beaten Kildare on 13 consecutive occasions since then. in either league and championship. And it's actually the first time that Kildare and Dublin play each other in Newbridge, in Kildare, since 1995. Absolutely incredible statistic that these two haven't played each other in Kildare since 1995. Just absolute madness, really. Kildare have had plenty of years in Division 1 since then, but for whatever reason, they've always played in Croke Park. So interesting statistic, no doubt about it. And back in 1995, you had players like Desi Farrell obviously involved. Jason Sherlock was a new player, young player who had just come into the team. So very, very fascinating stuff, no doubt about it. And a lot of the Dublin and Kildare players probably going to be playing on Sunday weren't even born. So absolutely crazy stuff. But in terms of this game itself, look, it's at Newbridge. The Kildare fans are going to be really up for this one, no doubt about it, in a similar fashion to how much they got up for the Kerry game. With the fact it's being played quite early on a Sunday at 1:45, I'm reaching a bit here as a Dublin fan, but I think maybe that it won't be as of benefit to Kildare if this was played on a Saturday night. I think, nighttime fixtures, obviously, I think the crowd tend to get a lot more up for it because obviously a lot of them are in the pub beforehand and all the rest. And it's just, there's usually a better atmosphere and a bit more of a carnival atmosphere in terms of nighttime games. And it'll be interesting to see what conditions are like as well. Obviously going into this, conditions could definitely play a part. It's going to be interesting. Look, Kildare, we've seen the problems that they've caused. Some of the teams they've played, they've showed heart, they've shown desire, they've shown commitment. With Daniel Flynn, obviously looking back to his best really against Tyrone. Obviously, he missed that late goal chance, but he got on the score sheet for the first time in 2022. Not only is he contributing with goals and points, but he's linking a lot of the play together as well. Paddy Woodgate, who's come in, has been brilliant at right corner forward. Derek Kirwan's coming back from injury as well, so you still have him to come into the team. Jimmy Hyland. I think Kildare's, this is definitely the best Kildare team that we have seen maybe since the late 2000s, 2009, 2010 era. There's no doubt about that. And I think for Kildare, they need to make it count though. You can have great teams, you can have great players come through, but if you don't make it count and you don't make use of it and you don't capitalize on it, it can go pear-shaped very, very quickly. I think Cork is the perfect example of that, who, a couple of years ago gave Dublin a really good game at Croke Park in the Super 8s and have really fallen off the boil massively since then. Beat Kerry in 2020, you thought Cork are on the rise, they're on the up, and then lose to Tipperary. And look at them now. They're very much in a relegation battle, potentially going down to Division 3. And even Meath is another example as well, who've come up to Division 1, been competitive, look good, but ultimately haven't been able to capitalise on some of the younger players and good players that they've been bringing through. So I think this is important for Kildare really to take a big scalp, to get a big step, to get a big win, and then that voodoo over Dublin. And there probably is no better time to beat Dublin, to play Dublin at Newbridge, and also maybe end their barren spell in Leinster as well. I do think with the fact that the game's been played in Newbridge, I think it will help Dublin. It will suit Dublin more, actually, funnily enough, than Croke Park. I know Dublin obviously haven't played in Newbridge since 1995. Maybe some of the players have played there under 20 level or whatever, but if this was at Croke Park, I think it would suit Kildare a lot more. I think they'd go direct. You'd be seeing, there'd be very much a similar style that they would set up that Armagh and Mayo will play against Dublin, where they'll hit that direct ball into Daniel Flynn. Paddy Woodgate will probably peel off, in that right corner forward position. You'll see Masterson doing a lot of the work in around the middle, Kevin Feely, Kevin Flynn as well. But look, with it being in Newbridge, I mean, the tactics won't change. It will be tough, narrow pitch. I think the main thing for Dublin here is they need to win this game. They really, really do. If they want to avoid relegation, they need to win this game. And, I know a lot of people are saying, is it as bad as what it is? Are Dublin really in crisis? All the rest. And, maybe it's good for Gaelic football that Dublin aren't as good as what they were. Maybe other people in the country can think that. But obviously, for myself as a Dublin fan, you want to see your county win. You want to see your county put points on the board, and you want to see them perform well and perform to the ability that they can perform at. And we just haven't seen that at all this year. They've been beaten very comfortably in all three games. And actually, I'll throw that league table back up there for a minute and remove this banner. If you have a look at the very bottom of the league table, and if you look on the right, just right beside where it says the points tally, you'll see the score difference. Look at Dublin's score difference compared with Kildare and Monaghan. Monaghan with -2, Kildare with -6, Dublin with -17. I mean, that's horrendous stuff, really, from a Dublin point of view. You would never have expected to have seen that in the Allianz National Football League. As a matter of fact, only Carlow have a worse score difference than Dublin in the entirety of the National Football League at the minute. And that's the thing, is you can lose, fair enough, it happens. You're not going to win every game. By God, we've seen Dublin win a lot of games in the last 10 years. So it's not a big deal to see Dublin losing matches. And even if they were to go down to Division 2, you know what? These things happen. It's not the end of the world. Mayo went down to Division 2, still reached an All-Ireland final in back-to-back years. These things happen. But I think for me, it's just a lack of fight, the lack of desire. The tactics as well are just very, very sloppy and poor. There's no real emphasis on kick passing. The movement is quite poor as well. There just isn't really much, you would say, urgency within that Dublin team, and I think that's a big worry. Will we see Conor O'Callaghan come back into the team? Maybe James McCarthy as well. The longer it goes on that these two aren't involved, the more you start to think of it as a Stephen Cluxton situation or something where these players just won't come back and we're not going to see any information on it. So, I do think it's important for Dublin to stay in Division 1, with younger players coming through, with them being in transition as well. But we'll see what happens. Look, in terms of this game, I think I'm going to go with a Dublin victory. I think we'll just about have enough here to narrowly win, maybe by a point, maybe by 2 points. If Dublin do lose this game, I think relegation is almost confirmed. There'll be 3 points behind Kildare at this stage. Monaghan and Kildare still have to play each other as well. Dublin still have to go away to Tyrone. I just don't see how Dublin would have enough to turn it around if they lose this game. So I think Dublin will just about have enough here to edge it out by a point or two. I'm not expecting it to be a brilliant Dublin performance, but I think this might be a bit of an ugly win where they don't play to their absolute best, but have enough to just about see off Kildare and get the victory. Be interesting to see if Cormac Costello's back from injury. That could be a huge addition for the Dublin team as well. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm going to go with Dublin just to narrowly edge Kildare by a point. But do let me know in the comments whether you're watching live or after the video. Let me know how you think this game will go. And Donegal versus Tyrone up next. This game live on RTE on Saturday. As I said, I'm surprised it's not the Mayo and Armagh game on Saturday. That game isn't being, especially with it being at Dr. Hyde Park as well. Like, they would have the infrastructure to show that game, whether if it was at Park Sean McDermott or Markovich Park, maybe not. But look, Donegal Tyrone live on Saturday night. Big rivalry between these two, obviously, down the years. Donegal had Tyrone's number year in, year out there for a while. Well, not year in, year out as such, but they beaten Tyrone in both league and championship in 2020 and 2019, I think it was. Tyrone's last victory over Donegal before their Ulster quarter-final win, Ulster semi-final win, I should say, was back in a Super 8s game in 2018. So, Donegal had a fantastic record over Tyrone for quite a while. And obviously Tyrone were able to turn them over last year. Another big game for both. Like, when you have a look at that league table, again, there we'll throw it back up one last time. You'll see Donegal and Tyrone both right beside each other in terms of points, both with 3 points on the board. I don't think any of these two sides will get relegated, even for whoever loses this game. I think they'll both have enough to still win one more game probably between now and the end of the season. But look, it's a big game, for whoever wins could maybe be looking at maybe squeezing into a league final. To be looking upwards rather than over their shoulder. But I do think this game will probably be about consolidation in terms of obviously staying in the division. And I think we've seen a lot of the times down the years between Donegal and Tyrone as well that both sides probably don't show their hand a lot in these league games. There's a likelihood that these two could end up playing each other in an Ulster final, maybe potentially further down the line. And they are two teams very, very familiar with each other. There probably will be lots of messing. I think I'd be very surprised if there's no red cards in this game or penalties or some sort of drama, some sort of talking point, because there usually always is between Donegal and Tyrone. Donegal so far, I've been unimpressed by them so far this year. I know they've Michael Murphy injured, but They look like a team that's just not playing to their potential, in my opinion. Their style is way too laboured in terms of no real variation in their play. They were happy enough to see the game out against Kerry when they lost. Look, maybe they'll come good later in the year. I do think they have the talent there, other than just Michael Murphy. Like Michael Langan, I think, is one of the most underrated footballers in the country. You only have to look at a highlight reel, really, of his goals and points to know just how good he is. Shane O'Donnell, Conor O'Donnell have been two good additions into that team as well. And they've got good young players like Caleb McGonigal, is at the right age. Paddy McBurthy's obviously been around a while, but he offers a lot of experience in that forward line. So I think if Donegal were to go at teams a bit more, they were to put teams under more pressure, maybe not always concede the kick out, I think we'd see Donegal cause a lot more problems for teams. Whether we'll see that further down the line in the championship, it remains to be seen. For Tyrone, if they can perform like they did in that second half against Kildare, I think they will win this game, in my opinion. I know going away to Ballybuffet is obviously a very tough place to go, and it will be very difficult, and with the conditions as well. Whoever builds up a lead in this game could very well see the game out. And I think how the opening 10 to 15 minutes go of this game might decide who wins it. But Tyrone will have the likes of Padraig Hampsey back in the team, Michael McKernan, Peter Hart, and Kieran McGeary. And obviously Fergal Logan, Brian Dewar need to give them game time, so I'd expect them to come back in. Darragh Canavan looked very impressive against Kildare as well. He's doing everything right at the minute. Very quick, very explosive player. Always getting himself into good attacking positions. Probably just, that end product probably isn't there just yet, but he's still very young. So I think that probably will come at some point. So yeah, I think Tyrone will have enough here to turn over Donegal by a point or two. Could be a draw though as well. This game kind of has a draw written all over it. Very, very tough one to call. But I'm going to go with Tyrone just about to edge it, I think, by 2 points away from home. It will be very tough, but I just haven't seen enough from Donegal so far in the opening 3 games to suggest that they're going to cause enough problems to Tyrone's defence. So, yeah, I think Tyrone will just about edge it there, in my opinion. Monaghan against Kerry. I know I've seen a couple of comments in the football review show on Tuesday there saying that Monaghan would turn over Kerry, in Clones in their backyard. Maybe they might be able to cause a bit of a shock. Don't see it personally. Look, Monaghan, they're architects of their own downfall in many ways in their opening 3 games. I think they had Tyrone on the ropes. If they had pushed a little bit more, they could have won that one. The Armagh game was there for them. They threw their lead away when they looked very, very comfortable, obviously getting Conor McManus sent off as well. We'll see what happens with McManus. Maybe he might get his red card rescinded and he might be involved in this game. Because he was looking brilliant, wasn't he, up until he got sent off against Armagh. He kicked 4 points and was looking like vintage Conor McManus. Jack McCarron's been impressive for Monaghan so far as well. I suppose for Monaghan, though, it is that thing where they probably don't have as much depth in their squad where they can rotate. I think when they rotate, the quality definitely drops, as opposed to the likes of a Kerry who can rest a David Clifford and still have a Tony Brosnan, a Stephen O'Brien, a Killian Spillane coming into the team. So I think that's the worry for Monaghan, is that when they rotate, their squad, the quality of their squad diminishes quite a lot compared to some of the other better counties. One thing you will give Monaghan credit for, though, is, look, they always give themselves a chance. They always give themselves a fight. And funny enough, they're actually, I find them a lot better when they're chasing a game than when they're defending a lead. I think when they're defending a lead, they seem to crack a lot of the times, maybe under the pressure, or other teams pressing up on their kickouts. And I think Rory Beggan, as we've seen, has the ability to kick as long as anyone. But sometimes, for whatever reason, the direction, there just isn't enough options really, or movement in the kickouts. And I think sometimes they can be turned over, especially in the final 10 to 15 minutes of games. So, yeah, look, I think with Kerry going away to Monaghan, it's a tough place to go. It won't be easy. I think David Clifford will start this game with the fact that there's no Sigerson Cup distractions anymore. He didn't even start the last game against Donegal. So I would expect David Clifford to start. Sean O'Shea, is really, really came alive against Donegal. He was absolutely fantastic. I just don't see. You've seen some of the defensive problems Monaghan had against Armagh, and Armagh really went for it, obviously winning the penalty, getting themselves a goal as well. I mean, should have had 2 goals, obviously. So I just don't know how Monaghan's defence is going to cope with the likes of David Clifford, Paddy Clifford, Sean O'Shea, and even with some of the options off the bench. Like, I think we'll start to see Tony Brosnan come more into the team now as well. More attacking players in there. Maybe Joe O'Connor will come back in for Kerry in midfield. So, who is obviously the captain. So, yeah, I think Kerry will have enough to overturn Monaghan by 3 points. Shane United says there, I'm going up to Monaghan. It's going to be tight and difficult, but hopefully we'll get another 2 points on the board. And yeah, I think an important thing to know for Kerry as well is with Mayo and Armagh playing each other, this is a great opportunity for Kerry to open up a bit of a gap in that league table and, take a step closer towards a league final. So yeah, I think Kerry will have enough here. I think Monaghan, with it being at home, with it being at Clones, and with the fact that there might be tough conditions, all the rest, we'll see what the weather's like this weekend. That might play a factor, and I think it will be tough for Kerry. This will be a tough game for them, and I do expect them to be tested a lot more than they were in their last 2 games against both Donegal and Dublin. But I do think Kerry will have enough in the final 10 to 15 minutes, when you have players that you can bring off the bench like Tony Brosnan, Micheál Burns, Darragh Moynihan, players like that. I think that makes a massive, massive difference. I really do. So I think Kerry will have enough to squeeze past Monaghan there by 3 points. We'll move on to Division 2, and we'll get the league table just up there on the screen very, very briefly there. So you can see there, Derry up at the top with 6 points. Roscommon with 5 points. Galway and Clare locked level with 4 points apiece. And interesting enough, Down, who, if you had to ask Down supporters, or if you had told Down supporters they'll be in 5th position after 3 games in the Allianz National Football League, they probably would have bit your hand off. But the crazy thing is they haven't won any games. They've only got a draw in there. But because Division 2 has been very strange, a lot of the teams that are at the top of the division haven't played each other yet. So you see a big gap opening up there already in the Allianz National Football League after just 3 games. And some teams only play 2 games, like Galway and Offaly there, for example. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as more of these teams play each other who are in and around a similar position, and 2 counties who are in and around similar positions as you would have seen there in the league table, if we get that back up there. Offaly and Meath actually both in the bottom 2 places there. So in a similar fashion to Division 1, where you're having a crunch relegation game between Dublin and Kildare, the bottom 2 teams, you're also getting the same in Division 2 as well, with Meath Offaly taking on Meath, I should say there. So in terms of this game, look, Offaly will come into this maybe a little bit more rested, having not played last weekend. But I think it will suit Meath because 2 weeks off, it's a long time being off. Offaly would have been preparing for the Galway game anyways, because it was only cancelled at the final few hours. So it'll be an interesting one. I think Meath surely have to win this one, though. Surely they have to win this one. They'll be disappointed with the draw against Down. Down obviously have had a lot of changes in their team, a lot of changes in their panel, players opting out, all the rest, different changes in there. Meath have had a couple of injuries at the minute, and that probably maybe explains some of their poor performances. But look, they still have a lot of the same lads in and around there. Like, still have Killian O'Sullivan, who's been on the bench from time to time, but still have Jordan Morris, Matthew Costello, Cathal Hickey, Ronan Jones still to come in there as well. For me, they just can't. They can't go down to Division 3. They really, really can't. With Tier 2 coming in there as well. I did hear as well on the Sunday game, or the Allianz League Sunday, that apparently the team that finishes 6th in Division 2 will also miss out on the, will also go into the Tailteann Cup. I don't think that's true, in all honesty, because I'm pretty sure 1st and 2nd in Division 3 goes into the Tailteann Cup, so I don't understand how sixth would miss out. I think I said fifth there. I meant to say sixth. The team that avoids relegation. So, but if that is the case, even more pressure on some of these counties down near the bottom of the league. So a huge game. Offaly are missing a couple of players. Keane Farrell's injured. They're probably stuck in that not transition as such, but they're maybe a bit of transition where the younger players like Jack Bryant and Cormac Egan, for example, probably just not quite ready for senior football just yet, probably not there just yet. Whereas in a couple of years, they might be more on site and they might be a little bit more ready there as well. It's a huge game. There's no doubt about it. Meath have to win. They have to get the result. And just looking at some of their scores the last day as well, like Shane Walsh with 2 points coming back into the team. Ronan Jones started as well. So good to see him back as well. Harry Hogan with 2 points as well from frees and plays balls. So huge game. X1 says hopefully Offaly can pull through. It's a must-needed win. Yeah, I think whoever loses this game for me is in massive, massive trouble. Definitely a lot more pressure on Meath. And I think they will win this game. They showed a bit more fight against Down, obviously in very tough conditions with a finishing 2-6 apiece. They've gradually got better in their 3 games. We've seen Offaly struggle in their opening 2 games with a couple of injuries in there. So I think Meath will have enough here to win this one. And I think they should have enough to come through by 3 or 4 points. Cork and Galway is another huge one as well. Cork obviously in massive disarray at the minute in their opening 3 games, just 1 point from their opening 3 games. And in a similar fashion to Meath, I mean, for Cork to get relegated and go down to Division 2, I think would be an absolute disaster and a bit of a catastrophe in many ways for a county like Cork. And they've had a new manager come in, they've had players opting out, they've had players retiring, younger players coming in, and they faced some tough opposition in their opening 3 games. Is it as bad as, obviously I was speaking with Matthew Hurley from the GAA Statsman podcast there in the during the week on Tuesday, and maybe some of you have seen the clip of his rant very much on the Cork footballers. He mentioned that they could lose this game by 20 plus points, which I don't think it would be as bad as that personally. I don't think Galway will win this by 20 plus. I think that's probably a little bit of an overreaction. But look, Cork are in disarray. They clearly haven't fitted into the style of the new manager just yet. There's a massive transition there at the minute. And things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. I still think they have enough to avoid relegation. Still think they have enough to turn over a Down and an Offaly in their final 2 games. And when you look at Division 2, possibly 3 points might be enough. A win and a draw might be enough to avoid relegation in this division, or 2 wins might be enough. And I can see Cork getting 2 wins in their final couple of games. But I think the main thing here for Cork fans will be just to show a bit of a performance. With it being at home, with it being in their own backyard, they'll want to see a performance. They'll want to see a reaction. For Galway, who NUIG won the Sigerson Cup there a couple of weeks ago, and we've seen the influence of Tom O'Callaghan in there, and a few other Galway players. We'll start to see them coming back into the team, starting more regularly. There won't be as many distractions going on for Galway, but they've looked very good in their opening 2 games, very comprehensive. The younger players are starting to make an impact coming into the team, the likes of Jack Glynn, Matthew Tierney, and they're starting to play good football, good attacking football, and they've been comfortable enough in their last 2 games. A bit of a trouble. They were troubled a little bit against Down in the closing minutes, but always looked like they were going to come through that. It will be interesting to see what Galway are like when they come up against quality opposition, when they come up against the likes of your Mayo and in the Connacht Championship, or when they play Derry, for example. So it will be interesting to see how Galway fare when they come up against quality opposition. But I think they'll have enough here going away to a Cork team that are in a little bit of disarray. Would it been played at Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well? I think that could suit Galway even more, to play that expansive football. To play good football, to get young lads like Matthew Tierney, Tom O'Callaghan, more game time, Shane Walsh as well, Damo Comer coming back in as well. So I think Galway will have enough here. I think it will be comfortable enough, and I think they should win it by 5 points. There's a comment coming in here from Sharon Hegarty, who says it will be great for Derry to get promoted, and it's looking likely, as we've seen in the league table, 3 wins from 3. They're looking good, they're looking comprehensive, but this is a tough game for them going away to Clare. Clare are such a tough team to play in this division, such a hard team to beat. You really have to be on your game, you really have to be at your best when you face this Clare team. They're the type of team that everyone seems to underestimate and think, when you look at the league table, I'm sure the likes of your Derry, Galway, Roscommon, when they see Clare coming up, they're probably thinking, this is a game we can win and this should be 2 points on the board. But I think Clare have proven time and time again that they're such a physically tough team to beat, playing them away from home. They're an experienced team. Owen Cleary, David Tubridy, who scored an absolute wonder score late on against Roscommon. Keelan Sexton has been in impressive form as well so far this year for Clare. And this is a huge game because if Clare can turn over Derry, it firmly puts them in the promotion battle. I think even if they lose this game, I still think they're up there, still think they're in contention. But it will, you're seeing all the top 4 teams, they're all taking points against the lower teams, the teams below them. So for Clare, they will need to probably beat either a Derry or a Galway in their final 4 games to clinch that promotion. Obviously, having played Roscommon already and drawn with them. So huge game for Clare. For Derry, they've done very well in their opening 3 games. They've been tested a little bit here and there, but they've come through those tests with flying colours. In a similar fashion to Galway, it will be interesting to see Derry when they do come up against quality opposition. Not to say that teams that Derry and Galway have faced haven't been quality, but they're clearly not at the high end of Division 2. So it will be interesting to see Derry going up against some of those teams. I think they'll just about have enough here going away to Clare. I think this will be close though. I think there'll only be a point or 2 in it. I could see Clare frustrating Derry, making life tough for them. I could see Owen Cleary getting on the score sheet, contributing with a couple of points. And for Derry, this will definitely be their toughest test in Division 2 so far. I think they'll be up against it. They'll have their backs up against the wall in this one. Would have been away from home as well. I think it will be tough, and this will certainly be the toughest test for Rory Gallagher's men so far this year, in my opinion. So yeah, I think Derry will just about have enough there. Finn Phillips says Tyrone versus Donegal prediction. I chatted about that game a little bit earlier, but I do think Tyrone will have enough to win that one. Very close one. It could even be a draw. I might have even said a draw. I can't remember what I said now. My mind's gone blank there. But I think Tyrone, though, will probably edge it just about by a point or 2. I think they've looked a little bit more impressive so far this year, especially in that second half performance against Kildare, whereas Donegal, with Michael Murphy injured, they just haven't clicked into gear just yet. So I think Tyrone will have enough, in my opinion. Down in Roscommon, the last game in Division 2. For Down, they'll be happy with that point against Meath. It gives them a fighting chance to stay in this division. It gives them an opportunity definitely to stay in this division. As I said before, you're probably looking at 3, maybe 4 points. Should be enough to avoid relegation in this division. And look, there is a good, feel-good factor in Down at the minute with Kilcue obviously haven't won the All-Ireland there. We'll see if some of those players come into the Down team at some point, maybe further down the line. I think that will be a huge boost for Down going into the Ulster Championship. Roscommon, they would have been disappointed with that draw against Clare. They definitely would have seen it as a point dropped in their promotion race, with the fact that Galway and Derry are looking very rootless at the minute. Possibly looking at 8-9 points maybe required to get promoted in Division 2. So they would have definitely been disappointed having left that game behind them. But as we've seen, Clare are definitely no mugs by any stretch of the imagination. So, maybe coming out of that point with a draw isn't necessarily a bad result. They should have enough to overcome Down in this one. We're obviously seeing some of the Padraig Pearce's lads starting to come back into the team now as well. Conor Cox starting to get, click back into top form. Very, they know how to get out of this division. They've been here, they've done it. I think they'll have enough here to get past Down. Down very inexperienced. We've seen even against Meath, they struggled to hold on to that lead. They'd probably just not quite there yet in terms of needing more leaders in the team. Whereas Roscommon have a wealth of experience in there obviously in the likes of Enda Smith, Connor Cox, a whole host of footballers really in there. So I think Roscommon will just about have enough. I think they'll just about edge it, in my opinion. But yeah, I think Roscommon by 3, I think is a fair result. I could see Down causing a couple of problems for Roscommon. Obviously, Down will come into this with, a bit of a bit of hope, really, having drawn that game. Like Andrew Gilmore with 1-2, Pat Havern with 1-3. That will definitely give them a lot of confidence. With still the Caleb Mooney, still to come back in. Well, he started the last day, but you'd expect him to be get back into, I suppose, that form we've seen from him in the last couple of years, and still have Barry O'Hagan who didn't start the last day as well. So, there are positives for Down, but I think Roscommon will just about have enough there in my opinion. Sharon Hegarty says there as well, Cork definitely need a good performance if they can and try make Galway work for this game. I think that's the main thing. I'd look at Cork maybe in a similar fashion to Dublin, in the sense of you can lose, that's fair enough, these things happen, but I think you need to show a bit of fight, a bit of heart, give your supporters something to cheer about, give them a close game, give them a fighting game. Make the supporters get up off their seats. I think that's the main thing, really, for some of these counties, and I think that will be a main thing for Cork. Really, is I think everyone's expecting Galway to win it comfortably enough, but for Cork, they need to start to show some sort of fight, because they will have to dig deep against the likes of your Meads and Down as well. And as I said, with Tailteann Cup coming in there, I think avoiding relegation is an absolute must for Cork. It's probably most important for them over some other counties, with the fact they're playing Kerry in the Munster Championship as well. So absolutely huge. Moving on to Division 3, Louth against Westmeath. What a huge win that was for Louth over Limerick. Sam Mulroy in absolutely fantastic form, getting in the team of the week. He's been one of the shining lights for Louth now for the last couple of years. He's one of the first names that people think of once they think of Louth football. And that was a huge win, because for Louth, I tipped them to be promoted at the start of the year. I feel like they have enough quality in there. They've got a top-class manager in Mickey Hart, who, tactically has been able to navigate his way through a lot of these games before. And I think he'd have enough to see out a lot of these Division 3 teams who are all kind of around a similar quality. But having drawn with Longford and obviously been beaten the first day out against Laois, you were thinking they're probably going to be in a relegation battle. But a big win against Limerick, away from home. It wasn't at the Gaelic grounds because of the conditions, but they still went, I think it was in UL Park or UL's home ground, whatever it's called. They went there and won the game, which was absolutely crucial. Westmeath, you would have expected them to beat Longford last weekend. That game was postponed, and Westmeath certainly are the overwhelming favourites, I think, in most people's eyes, to be promoted from this division. And this is a big chance for Westmeath to just start to open up a bit of a gap. We'll actually get the Division 3 table on the screen first of all there. Forgot to do that at the start. So as you can see there, you've got Antrim and Westmeath with 4 points. Westmeath obviously with that game in hand over Antrim and over Limerick and Louth. But if they do go and beat Louth, it will just open up a bit of a gap in the table, which I think is crucial from a Westmeath point of view. And I've been very impressed with Westmeath so far in terms of their scores. Like, they're getting a lot of different scores on the score sheet. John Heslin, for example, hitting 3 points against Laois on the opening day. Ronan O'Toole contributing. Luke Loughlin, who's come back in, scored 1-1 against Laois. And he was very impressive as well. And even getting options off the bench like Kevin Martin, for example, scoring a goal. So, Westmeath have a lot of variety in their attack. We've seen them put up some big score lines in the last couple, or, last season in particular. So I think they'll have enough here to overcome Louth. I think Louth will definitely be buoyed up by that win over Limerick. They'll be coming in with a lot of confidence. But I think Westmeath will have enough here. And I think if you can limit the influence of Sam Mulroy, which is easier said than done, I think you go a long way then till, that's half your battle won in stopping Louth. Not that Louth don't have other quality across the pitch. I think they do. But I think if you can limit the influence of Sam Mulroy, which I think for Westmeath with defenders like Kevin Maguire, Jack Smith, experienced defenders in that Westmeath side. I think they might just do enough to limit Sam Mulroy's influence in the game and have enough to squeeze through, I would say, a 3-point victory. Laois and Antrim, as you've seen in the Division 2 or Division 3 table as well, two teams right up near the top of the league. Laois with a game in hand, Antrim with 2 wins from 3. I think for Antrim, to be absolutely delighted with how this year has gone so far, winning the opening 2 games, and the McGinley style of football in this Antrim team really starting to come across in terms of being on the front foot, being attacking, taking on their players, running off the shoulder. And they really have come on leaps and bounds in the last couple of years from a team that was, trying to make that breakthrough to come out of Division 4, couldn't quite get over the line, to have now won 2 out of their last 3 games. Yes, people will say they played Wicklow and Fermanagh, who are 2 teams likely to be down near the bottom of the league. But I think Wicklow have looked impressive so far this year, and Antrim very comfortably beat them, beat them by 9 points, 210 to 1-7. And whether it's Oran Eastwood, Rory McCann, Ryan Murray contributing with a couple of scores, kicking those scores, and even Kevin Small in midfield, who kicked a point the last day. And from what I heard, obviously, these games aren't shown on TV. From what I heard, he was very dominant in around the middle as well. So, Antrim are looking good, and even just having a look here, like 2-1 coming off the bench the last day with Conor Murray and Mark Jordan both getting on the score sheet. So, without having seen Antrim because of, I suppose, the lack of coverage in the lower divisions, from having heard different things from other podcasts and from seeing match reports, they're looking pretty good. This will be a tough one, though. Going away to Laois, it's a tough one, isn't it? Going away to a team that, yes, we're beaten the last time out against Westmeath, but it looked good in pre-season. Clearly, they are, maybe slowly beginning to turn the corner under their new manager, Billy Sheehan, who's come in there. I'm going to go for a draw here. I haven't gone for a draw, I don't think, so far in any of my predictions, and I feel like this could be a draw because I think Antrim are coming in with a lot of momentum, maybe a little bit more match sharpness, having played last week. So I'm going to go with a draw, and I think that would be a fantastic result for Antrim, and it would definitely lead them closer towards getting promoted to Division 2, which would be an extraordinary achievement for Antrim. Longford and Fermanagh, definite relegation battle, this one. Fermanagh struggling in their opening 2 games, have had a huge turnover in their team. I think they're one of the counties that's had the most amount of turnovers, or the highest turnover rate in terms of players in the last 2 years. And you're seeing what managers as well. Obviously, Royce McManaman there last year, he's gone. Kieran Donnelly's come back in. So I think for Fermanagh, things might get a little bit worse before they get better. But if they are going to stay in the division, they will need to win this one away at Longford. But Longford, although Rian Brady doesn't look like he's going to be too heavily involved for Longford this year, who's been very impressive for them in the last couple of years, they do still have some very experienced players, and Mickey Quinn in the team, Darren Gallagher as well. So I think Longford will have enough here at home. We've seen Longford get some big results in the last couple of years, obviously against Tipperary, for example. So I think they will just about have enough to oversee Fermanagh. I think these two played each other last year in the league as well, and I think it might have been a draw. So, this could be a very, very close game. I don't think there'll be a lot in it, but I think Longford maybe to nick it by a point. You've got Wicklow and Limerick. For Limerick, we were saying there with Louth having turned over Limerick the last day, and what a huge victory that was for the wee county. But from a Limerick point of view, they'd be massively disappointed, having lost that game. They would have definitely targeted that game as a victory. They definitely would have been, when you look at that league table, we'll get it on the screen once again. You can see them there in third with 4 points after 3 matches. And interesting enough, they've scored 7 goals so far in the league in the opening 3 games. They're actually one of the top scorers in terms of goals so far this year. So this is a huge one going away to Wicklow. Wicklow obviously have had a tough time of it so far, just 1 point from 3 games. Definitely a team that a lot of people are expecting to get relegated. I think a lot of people thought maybe they'd be whipping boys in this division with Davy Burke having obviously stepped away and Shawnee Furlong retiring. But look, they've made things tough for teams. Even against Antrim, it was a close enough game until, the final 10 minutes or so, from what I heard. So, Wicklow will make this tough, but I think for Limerick, if they do have any ambitions of gaining promotion and taking a step forward and making that step up into Division 2, they need to be winning this one. They really, really do. Hugh Burke with 1-2 in that defeat versus Louth. Josh Ryan with 6 points as well, and Ian Corbett playing in that centre back role with 2 points. So he's been obviously a player a lot of people have been speaking about over the last couple of years. So look, even with Danny Neville, who opted out at the start of the year, like, they're still getting a lot of goals in there, whether it is Hugh Burke, Pat Ryan, or Peter Nash, I should say. Pat Ryan plays for the Hurlers, so that would be impossible. But Limerick looking good. Look, they're looking good, and I think they will have enough to turn over Wicklow in this one. We'll finish up on the Division 4 games first of all, and we will just get the league table on the screen there. That's Division 1. Here we go. Division 4. The big boy division, the division we're all excited for and interested for. And you know what? There's a lot of there's crunch games in every division. Every game matters and every game is important. But this weekend is going to be even more significant because look at London. 3 wins from 3. They're one of a few teams with a 100% record so far in the Allianz National Football League. And all their games have been very close. Like, even looking at their score difference there, you can see there just +4 in their score difference, which I think is very impressive indeed. And with the fact that Sligo and Cavan didn't play each other last weekend because that game was cancelled due to the storm, London sitting top of Division 4. What a story! What an achievement! I mean, absolutely incredible stuff there. And they're coming up against the Wexford side, who are sitting bottom of the division. I mean, if someone had told you at the start of the year that London are playing Wexford and it's the bottom team going up against the top team, you would have said, yeah, fair enough. Wexford are probably top of this division. London are bottom. But it's actually the other way around, and absolutely incredible stuff. And you know what? I think they're going to win this game as well. I think it's going to be 4 wins from 4. Wexford, haven't been that impressive in their opening 3 games. A lot of people were looking at them as a team that could be up there battling for promotion. It just hasn't been the case. They've had some disappointing defeats in their opening 3 games. I don't think there's much shame in losing to Cavan, who are probably one of the more likely teams to be promoted. They would have been heavily disappointed with their loss to, was it Sligo as well? So, and just looking at that league table, I don't even think they've won a game so far this year, have they? 2 games, 2 defeats. So, just disappointing stuff there from a Wexford point of view. And I think with London, with the work that Michael Maher is doing there as the manager, Liam Gavahan so far, absolutely brilliant in and around the middle for this London side. They're just doing really, really well, and they're finding ways to win games, even with Gallagher there with a goal. Noel Maher, the goalkeeper, hitting 3 points. They've obviously got a free taker in there or someone they can rely on from place balls. So for London, just so much optimism, so much positivity, so much buzz around the club with the game being at home. I think a fantastic initiative from London GAA as well to make their home games free for their supporters, which I think, it's more of an incentive for more people to go and watch the game as well and go see the game, especially if you're homegrown or whatever. It's more of an incentive to watch the game, and it's just brilliant free advertising, really free promotion in many ways. So yeah, with it being at home, I think they'll have enough. I really do. It's obviously a hard one to call how the game's going to go because we haven't seen too much of these. We haven't really seen any of these games at all. I haven't seen London play at all in Division 4 because of the lack of coverage, which is very disappointing. But they're a team that fights. They're a team that digs in. They've been behind in all their matches at halftime and turned it around, which even lends me to think if they can even start games a lot better and start first half of games a lot better, they could go on and win, and win a game quite comfortably. And Wexford, when the goings got tough, that's been the worry for them, hasn't it, in recent years? And actually, before this year, London, when London and Wexford last played each other, and I think they played each other in 2020, but when they played each other in 2019, London won that game as well. So, London they have a knack of beating Wexford as well. So that's why I think that they're going to have enough and win this one by, what we say, 2 points. 2 points, I think, is a fair assumption. And, promotion really, really likely as well. You probably only need, two more wins maybe to get promoted, with Cavan and Sligo still to play each other. I'd fancy London to beat Tipperary as well. I think they go away to Sligo, home to Cavan. So 2 big games coming up after this for London as well. No doubt about that. Cavan against Carlow. This should be a comfortable enough victory from a Cavan point of view. Carlow, I mean, they've been, I suppose, very hit and miss. They lost by 23 points to Sligo in an extraordinary result. But then a big win last weekend or at the weekend there against Waterford. Dara Foley with 7 points, who's been one of the long-term serving players with Carlow over the last 10 years or so. So good to see him coming back in and scoring 7 points. And he's definitely adding that bit of experience within the team and leadership within the team that they've probably been missing. But will it be enough to stop Cavan in their tracks, who've won their opening 2 games? I don't think so. I think Cavan will have enough. We've seen Paddy Lynch come into the team, be a good addition in their forwards. Obviously, Grode McKernan, very dominant in a lot of these games in Division 4. And I think, Division 4 is definitely way below his level, in my opinion. Martin Riley as well, who's been, just there for years and years, and just such a consistent figure within the Cavan setup. So I like the look of Cavan so far. They're Division 4 favourites for a reason. They've won their opening 2 games. They would have been disappointed that game with Sligo was cancelled last week, because it would have been a chance to secure promotion a bit earlier and then start to turn their attention maybe towards the Ulster Football Championship and their opening game against Antrim, which will be a tough game, no doubt about that. So yeah, I think Cavan will have enough here. I think it'll be comfortable enough. We'll go with Cavan by 7 points. I don't think Carlow will have too much of a say in this one. Waterford and Leitrim. Waterford would have been disappointed with that loss to Carlow last weekend, losing by 4 points. A positive start when they drew with Tipperary. Dara Corcoran, I think, hitting 5 points on that day, and they've a team that's been together for quite a couple of years, and they would have been very happy with their performance. But back-to-back defeats to both London and Carlow, I think, have got rid of any real chance of it was always going to be a long shot for Waterford to be promoted anyways. But I think for Waterford, they will be looking at things and thinking, are they going to be the side that finishes bottom of the division? It's probably looking likely at this stage, with Carlow having won a game. But look, Waterford do make life difficult for a lot of these teams in Division 4. We've seen that so far. But you would fancy Leitrim to just be a bit ahead with Emlyn Mulligan, Ryan O'Rourke. Last week's defeat to London would have been a huge setback for Leitrim, who certainly I think will be targeting promotion, but 4 points behind London with 4 games to go. You're talking about there needing to be a 2-game swing, and you're obviously relying on Cavan and Sligo to potentially drop points in there as well. So I think they'll have enough to overcome Waterford. Waterford will certainly make it tough at Fraherfield, there's no doubt about it. But I think Leitrim with Ryan O'Rourke, Emlyn Mulligan, they should have enough to oversee the challenge of Waterford and win it by 4 points. I think we'll go with that margin there. Tipperary, Sligo last but not least, and I suppose Tipperary could finish bottom of Division 4, couldn't they? With how things are going, which you certainly wouldn't have expected at the start of the year. I think a lot of people were looking at them as promotion candidates, and Conor Sweeney has been from one of the top scorers so far in the division, but Tipperary still winless after their opening 2 games. And look, it's been very disappointing for Tipperary, drawn with Waterford. Obviously a huge setback and defeat in their next game as well. I can't quite remember who it is off the top of my head there, but coming up against the Sligo team, who I think probably would have been one of the teams that was most disappointed by last weekend's game being postponed. Well, I think every team was disappointed, but for Sligo, they were coming in just with such momentum, having beaten a team like Carlow by 23 points, and playing Cavan early on in the league as well. Maybe there could have been an upset there. Maybe there could have been a shock that definitely would have been one of the more intriguing games to keep an eye on in Division 4. It was actually Leitrim who beat Tipperary quite comfortably. Like Conor Sweeney that day, for example, finishing the day with 2-6, and that's the disappointment for Tipperary, is that Conor Sweeney is still playing to his absolute best, but it seems to be defensively where they've really been struggling so far this year in their opening 2 matches. Sean O'Connor's come in there, who is a player who has done quite well for Tipperary at under 20 level in recent years, but it probably is just maybe a year or two soon for him. So big game, Sligo, Pat Spillane Jr. coming in there, who's been absolutely brilliant. Noel Murphy, fantastic so far for Tony McEntee's men. And Sligo, they'll certainly be targeting promotion, and this will be when you look at the league table, we'll get it back up on screen there one last time. You'll see there, gaps are beginning to open up, and if Sligo, Cavan and London all win at the weekend, they'll all each be comfortably above fourth place Leitrim, who will probably win this weekend as well. So a big opportunity, big opportunity for Sligo to win this one. And you wouldn't have seen that a couple of years ago when Tipperary were absolutely flying. So I think Sligo will have enough, and they'll turn over Tipperary by 3 points in this one. So yeah, that very much wraps up all the weekend's action in the Allianz National Football League. I suppose in terms of players to watch, I think Mayo and Armagh is going to be interesting, isn't it? It's going to be interesting to see how Rian O'Neill does going up against a star-studded defence in Mayo, who star-studded maybe is a bit of a stretch, but it's another game for Rian O'Neill going up against a top team in Mayo, and I think it's just going to be very intriguing to see how Armagh do against a side like Mayo as well. And be interested to see, could we see more of the Kilcoo lads maybe get involved with Down? Could we see a few of those players maybe come in there, like Jerome Johnson or Sheelan Johnson? They might be players maybe to watch out for. Probably maybe a week or so early. If they are going to come back into the team, it's probably not now. And I think if Clare are going to do anything against Derry, David Tuberty, who is ageless in many ways. I mean, he's still going in the Allianz National Football League. Could we see some absolute wonder scores from him? Keelan Sexton's looked brilliant as well. And maybe from a Dublin point of view, surely Con O'Callaghan comes back in there maybe. Surely at this stage, would have been the 4th game now in the league. We're going to see him come back in. Maybe Cormac Costello comes back from injury as well and delivers a bit of a good performance. So definitely a lot of players to keep an eye on, a lot of games to keep an eye on as well. So yeah, if you have enjoyed the video, if you could leave a like, smash that like button as well. Share this out to your friends and family if they enjoy some GAA content that is completely free. That'll be absolutely brilliant. And the hurling preview will be out tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. That'll be live at 1 o'clock. So stay tuned for that one. Looking at all the weekend's hurling action. And if you are new to the channel, if you could subscribe. If you're already subscribed, you're an absolute legend, and I really do appreciate that. So yeah, cheers to anyone who tuned in. My name's Aaron, and I'll see you all tomorrow for the hurling preview and for some match reactions, discussions, talking points, all the rest upcoming at the weekend, and plenty of big games to look forward to this weekend. So yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. Cheers to anyone who tuned in, and I'll see you all later.